Good afternoon, everyone. How are you guys doing? What's going on? Welcome to episode number 4 of Merchants of Novigrad, a bi-weekly podcast where we discuss everything Gwent. Today with me are my two trusty co-hosts, Baby Joseph, commonly known as BJ, as well as Ville. And with that out of the way, let me introduce you to our guest this week. Some say he's a god himself, others say he's the guy your girlfriend told you not to worry about. But the one thing is sure, he is one of the most talented Gwent players in the world and the winner of Challenger number 3. Please welcome the one and only TailBot. How are you doing, guys?
Doing well.
I'm doing good too.
Yeah, doing great. Hey.
And before we get into it, a couple of words to our viewers. Guys, if you have any questions, we are going to have a Q&A segment in the middle of the stream, so please ask them now. My dear friend BJ has been charged with the task of collecting the more interesting ones, and we'll try to answer them during the segment I just told you about. And if you would like to stay in touch also off-stream, follow us on Twitter at Novigrad Podcast. And if YouTube is the preferred platform for you to watch the podcast, this episode is going to be uploaded onto my YouTube channel in a couple of hours as well. So guys, the first segment, what have you been up to? And I think we can just start with our guest, TailBot. What have you been up to these days? How is Gwent treating you? How is life?
Recently I started streaming, if you don't know. Like 2 weeks ago, quite regularly. Almost every day. And yeah, mostly just that. Nothing too interesting besides that.
Nothing too interesting. There's one thing I want to ask you before we go to BJ and Villa. Is the cleaver somewhere there? Are we in danger? Is it on your desk? I've seen the clip, so I'm slightly worried. Is it there or is it not?
It's there.
Okay, guys.
It's always there.
We better keep an eye out on TailBot. But BJ and Villa, what have you been doing?
Yeah, shall I start?
Sure.
So yeah, I've been streaming like usual. A little bit less streams this week, but you know I'm very occupied with the studies. But yeah, I've been playing some Gwent, trying out some new decks in the expansion. Been playing Herald Gord in a Call of the Harmony deck, and I got pro rank again, so that's good. And and then something else. I'm working on a secret project with Dr. Dennis, Mr. Habla, and Biba Boop, which you guys will hear soon about. So I'm really excited for that. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah, I've been playing Gwent as well. Actually, I took like a week-long break before getting back into it quite recently. And yeah, nothing that interesting playing Gwent and chilling out, enjoying life.
Yeah, I see you are a man of few words as well, Villa, as usual. So what have I been up to? As everyone else, I've been streaming Gwent, and similar to Villa, I took a short break shortly after the expansion dropped. I was not too happy with how things were in the first week, but since then I've enjoyed it greatly. So I've been playing quite a lot, I've been streaming quite a lot, I've been memeing quite a lot as usual, and to be honest, my last meme creation has been doing quite well in the lower ranks, so I feel happy about that. And of course, I've been working on the podcast, getting guests, improving the layout, stuff like that, and I continue writing articles for Team Rankster as well. So nothing out of the ordinary, but we touched a bit upon the topic of the expansion, and that's going to be the next segment of our podcast, Iron Judgment. Guys, what have you been playing in Iron Judgment? And as always, I would like to start with TailBot. What have you been playing? What have you been trying? How do you like this expansion so far?
Okay, so first of all, I think I like the expansion. Yeah, I like the theme. I'm really glad that armor came back to the game. I really like this mechanic. I think it's like very useful for balancing and stuff like that. I'm not that big fan of a defender status, but I think it's not too bad. Like I don't mind it that much. And yeah, overall I like the expansion. I played pretty much, everything. And by everything, I mean everything that's at least decent, or that I see potential in, at least. And yeah, a good expansion. Like 7 out of 10, I would say.
7 out of 10. Oh, that's decent. You said that you are playing everything that seems decent, and we talked about that briefly before the podcast. Esco. Like, we have to ask about it on the podcast, because I've noticed that the moment you put him in deck, for No specific
Yeah.
reason, just to fit
I feel
in a
really
little
good
bit.
in that moment. I feel great when I put
Yeah,
Esker
and then
into my
people
deck.
just net decked it beyond belief. Like I've seen so many decks with Eskel now. How do you actually feel about people playing stuff that you've been trying out on stream?
How I feel? I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, it's. I mean, people like to net deck, right? If they see something decent and I have like good results on stream with it, I'm not surprised that people are gonna net deck this. People like to win, just as like I do. And yeah, Escal is a really good card. I really like this card. It's simple, but it's strong. It's not crazy strong, but it fits. It can fit into pretty much almost any deck, and it's just decent card, like a filler card. If you don't know what to play Escal.
Yeah. Also, if you wanna somewhat bait toll removal early on, you can just play Esco, and your opponent.
Yeah, I mean that's the one exception. If your deck doesn't go tall, then you probably shouldn't play Escal. But other than that, he's a really good card.
And BJ, Phil, how do you like the expansion? How would you rate it compared to the other expansions? Because it's the third one. It's the third expansion. To the people in chat who are new to Gwent, before that we actually had Crimson Curse that dropped in March, and Novigrad that dropped back in June. So this is the third expansion. CDPR is working on another one. They run a 3-month development cycle. So the next expansion should be in December. So yeah, how do you guys rate it compared to the other expansions?
I mean, compared to the others, I think the current expansion is very diverse. Every faction has their own decks that are being played on the ladder. So compared to the other expansion, I think it's way more diverse, and it feels more balanced. I mean, they did have to do a hotfix to the dwarves, but after that, it felt very balanced overall. So yeah, I've been enjoying it whenever I play Gwent.
Yeah, I think also this expansion has been the best out of all the three. I think there's not been that many balance issues as
guys. I think we have some tech issues. I'm not sure if it's Discord.
Yeah.
Might be on my end. How is the stream doing? The stream is lagging. Yeah, I think it might be on my end.
I feel like now it's fine.
Yeah, it feels better. I'm gonna run a quick test, guys. You continue talking. I'm gonna run a quick test, see what's going on.
Okay. So yeah, Villa, continue.
Yeah, so I think this is the best expansion. Yeah, it's definitely way more balanced than the Syndicate expansion was early on. There was a lot of issues, especially with Bounty. That was maybe a bit too overtuned at the start. But for this expansion, I don't think I have any complaints. Of course, defenders are quite good, but I don't mind them because if you deal, there's efficient ways to deal with them, right? And yeah, I've been enjoying the expansion, even though I took a little break. But that's something that I honestly just needed to get back into the swing of the game.
Yeah, as I said earlier, the first week was kind of rough for me. I really struggled with the idea of Defender and how to play around it. But I actually got used to it. So I agree with TailBot on the topic that Defenders, there are people who are not going to be huge fans of the new mechanics, but on the other hand, after a while, you know how to play around it, and you don't feel it's really that bad. Of course, there's one exception. I think a lot of people are kind of upset about Azar Javed as a defender, but I think it was to be expected. But yeah, TailBot, how would you rate this expansion compared to the other ones that we've already had?
I already said 7 out of 10, and compared to other expansions, yeah, I think I like it more than Crimson Curse, and yeah, probably more than Syndicate 1 too. Yeah, I think I like it the most so far. The Syndicate one was, I mean, it was maybe not as exciting because I mean, new faction is nice and all, but like the other factions didn't get any support pretty much, and I'm also not that big fan of the Syndicate faction, and Crimson Curse felt a little bit maybe like it was didn't have that much impact on the meta. Like there were a lot of filler cards and just not like most of the cards were pretty bad, like pretty weak, and so it didn't have that much of an impact on the meta. Yeah, and this one is maybe went too much into the other direction. Like most of the cards feel really strong. I think like 70% of the expansion are like very good cards, or like decent cards at least. And, yeah, there are not that many fillers compared to the other ones, which is okay, I guess.
And what would you rate like the best faction at the moment?
The strongest, or like,
Yeah, the strongest.
Syndicate. I think it's.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
so
like
too.
Syndicate in the hands of a good player is probably the strongest faction.
But would you say that this expansion is the most game-changing in terms of how people actually play the game?
Yeah, I think so.
Because we've had some new mechanics. We have armor, obviously, very useful. Another tool to just balance the game, and we have defender. And how would you rate the balance? Because I've seen people saying this is probably one of the most balanced metas we've had in a very long time.
Balance is not great, not terrible, as I would say. I mean, I'm quite sad that they didn't nerf Syndicate in the last hotfix. I think Syndicate right now has too many overtuned golds, and not even golds, like bronzes too, but mostly golds. And if you try to build, like if you would take few very good players and you made them, each of them try to build the strongest Syndicate deck, all of them would look very similar because of the like auto-include cards that Syndicate has.
But you said about most of the cards added in this expansion that they feel very, very strong. I actually had a look at your Twitter and one of your previous posts from months back, and somewhere back in early Homecoming, you said that there is a huge power disparity between cards, and there is a lot of mulligan fodder, just cards being included in the deck just to meet their deck requirements, but not to be played in an actual game. How do you feel about that now? 3 expansions later.
I feel pretty good. I mean, CDPR pretty much fixed the issue. Almost like the bronze power creep changed the game for better for me. And now it feels much better to play. Like the bronze cards don't feel like a mulligan fodder anymore. And
yeah, exactly.
Like they can stand on their own. Like you can get 6-7 points out of 4 provision cards sometimes, which feels pretty good. Yeah, I like it that they power creep. Maybe they also, I like the power creep on the bronzes. I wouldn't mind if they like made it even bigger on the bronzes, but I think maybe they overdid it a little bit on the gold cards. I think right now in the game there are too many overtuned gold cards, and yeah.
A few more words about bronzes. How do you feel about CDPR saying, essentially 3 months ago, that they want bronzes from other factions to be on the same power level as the bronzes from Skellige and Syndicate? But I personally feel like the reference point is kind of watered down, because obviously Skellige and Syndicate got significantly changed in the last couple of months. So how do you feel about that statement? Do you think that CDPR should continue on reworking the bronzes of other factions, or do you think the point where we are now is how it's going to look like in the foreseeable future?
I mean, I don't mind if they stick to the current power level of bronze cards. I think right now it's fine. I don't mind if it was a bit higher, but I think right now it's fine. And I wouldn't mind also if they stick to trying to buff or rework the very weak cards, unplayable cards. Like I kind of like that. I like balance patches in the game.
Yeah, me too. And for example, like they changed the Pirate Corsair, right? They gave it like the same ability to like a Necrot. What
the
do you think
Necrot
about
of the
that?
Seas.
Yeah, like because you mentioned like reworking cards and stuff. Like this is just basically like a copy pasta, right?
I mean, if that makes the card more playable, then I'm okay with that. I'm particularly I'm not like I don't like the copy paste cards, that some factions have right now. Like like the Corsair and the Necrot, it's pretty much same card but like 2 words different. I'm not a fan of that, but yeah, I mean if the cards gets like become playable, then I think it's okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
one thing, because they obviously haven't reworked bronzes from all the factions. So do you think that all the factions now have bronzes on at roughly the same level, or do you think like some factions could get a little bit more love, because we know that Skellige got some changes in the meantime. Northern Realms completely reworked a couple of months ago, but they haven't really touched, let's say, Novigrad or Scoia'tael. Do you think that there is still some work to be done, or they should just move on and drop smaller balance patches and then develop new content instead?
I think so. Like, Christ in Wolfpack. I mean, some bronzes are still lacking. I wouldn't mind if they got improved in the future patches, and definitely some factions have like better bronze packages than others. Like you mentioned Novigrad, and Novigrad probably has one of the weakest bronzes in the game right now. I wouldn't mind if they, improved some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Scatter is fine. When I look at the Scatter bronzes, I have quite a few choices that, I think they have decent amount of good bronzes.
One thing that people have been saying quite a lot is when it comes to Skellige and Novigrad specifically, there's only one way to play the faction, and in Skellige that's the priest combo, and in Novigrad that's the tactics package. So do you feel like these things are okay as they are now, and like if CDPR ever decides to rework bronzes, they should just focus on other archetypes and encourage other ways to play the factions?
I think the best example of that is Syndicate right now. As I mentioned before, like all the strongest Syndicate decks look pretty much the same. And there's really not much room for innovation in this faction. And that's also similar to Skellige. Skellige also feels like you can go only one way with the faction, just self-wound, armor, stuff like that. And there is nothing really, because like Bloodfierce, before you had Bloodfierce, but Bloodfierce got a lot weaker after the patches. Armor got introduced, like better boost cards, and overall the Bloodfierce cards didn't receive any buffs, like most of them. Some of them even got nerfed, and this card the same. They nerfed Coral and Bran in one of the last patches. I mean, not last patches, like it was quite a few time ago. But yeah, they nerfed it, and it was bad. Once they nerfed it, it was bad already. And then like power creep happened, and those cards stayed the same. So they're even worse now than they were before. So yeah, in Skellige, I think you could just try to buff Bloodfierce archetype, maybe buff some and discard cards, maybe revert the nerf on Coral, on Vilna, and then you would see more variety in this faction. And with Syndicate, I would just try to nerf like all those overtuned golds, like nerf the Hound, nerf Luisa Savola combo, nerf Professor, nerf the Defender. I mean, even Philippa, like all of those cards are kind of broken and too strong, I think.
When talking about nerfs, do you feel like nerfing a specific archetype or a specific set of cards would encourage a different kind of gameplay? Because we've seen that with Bounty. Before the Bounty nerf, people were saying without Bounty, Syndicate would not be the faction it is now. And then Bounty got nerfed, and all of a sudden, people found a couple of different ways to play it. And the Bronze package now is obviously much different than what it was a couple of months ago. So do you feel like nerfing could potentially encourage people to play factions in a different way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, auto-include cards are not very good for the game. Like, the more auto-include cards you have in a faction, the less diverse deck building is gonna be. And Syndicate has quite a lot of them. So yeah, I think nerfing is the right approach. If the cards are too strong and they are auto-include, you should try to nerf them.
BJ Villa, your input, guys.
Yeah, pretty much agree.
Yeah, and
Classic Villa.
Well, classic Villa. But yeah, I was thinking, like you mentioned, like Philippa should get nerfed, but Philippa has been like this for like a while now, and I don't think CDP is intending to.
Philippa is not that far away from being like balanced. I think she should be on the power level, so you don't want to. Obviously, you don't want to put her in every deck. She should be on the power level where maybe you would consider not playing her if we don't have like a heavy engine meta, and she would be a very good tech choice if like engine meta happens. Then you would play her.
Yeah, like
If she's
muscle.
auto-include, then and I feel like she is like, but she doesn't need like a big nerf. Like there are like stronger gold cards in Syndicate. I wouldn't mind seeing her like one provision more expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kind of expanding on the topic of buffs and nerfs. Everyone's favorite card as of now is Bribery, it seems. I've seen a lot of people just saying, oh, Bribery should be nerfed, or no, Bribery is fine. I've been seeing messages like that, posts like that for a while now. How do you feel about cards like that? Cards that are based on RNG but have a more or less limited pool of what they can get you. How do you feel about Bribery or Imperial Diplomacy and overall just RNG cards that exist in the game right now?
Okay, I'm not a big fan of RNG cards that have huge variance, and Bribery is a good example of that. Some people say that there is no reason to complain about Bribery because it's the same card as it was before. So why complain about it now and not before? Why didn't you complain before? But that's not true. I mean, before I used to run Bribery in my, it was a few months ago when I climbed Pradel to qualify for Open. I got my Novigrad pick with Morvan deck, which ran Commander's Horn and Meno, and you could shuffle back the Commander's Horn so you can replay it once, so you can play it 2 times. And then I ran Bribery as a backup Meno target to not brick. And back then it felt bad to play Bribery. Like you felt like on average this card is not giving you enough points. You run it just so your Meno doesn't break, and you didn't feel good about playing this card. But right now it's much different. Like Bribery got quite a significant buff because if all the cards, Bribery creates free cards from one's deck. If the cards get better, and they got better in power creep patch, then the Bribery also gets better, and Bribery got quite a lot stronger now. And it feels like on average you don't even feel bad about playing this card. Like you feel like on average for 8 provisions you can easily get like 9 points out of this card, which is pretty damn good. Before it was like 7 points maybe on average, so you had to pay for that, and now it's definitely much stronger. And this card has a huge variance. It can sometimes give you 5 points, sometimes it can give you 20 points. And you can also replay it now because Stefan is Stefan's Skellen is also a lot better card now, mostly because of the defender, but still.
I think one of the reasons Bribery is much stronger than it was before is they decoupled damage from units, so now you see a lot more people running a lot more specials in their decks. So the pool of cards that you can pull with Bribery got significantly lower because it only plays units.
True. Yeah, also, I feel like those heavy swingy RNG cards shouldn't be that strong. They shouldn't be as efficient on average. Like I think if right now Bribery is, if you want to play Enslave 5, then Bribery is like a stable tactic card, and I feel like it should be on a power level, so it's a consideration, maybe a consideration if you want to go 12 tactics. That would be the right power level. And if it's like a stable when you go 8 and everyone goes 8 at least, then it's probably too strong.
Yeah, I feel like they made a step in the right direction by introducing tactic cards that are neither damage or RNG. For example, Battle Preparations and War Council. Of course, War Council has a very negative effect on the playability of a tactical decision, aka Calvite. But I think it's a step in the right direction. I think that maybe in the future we'll see fewer RNG cards, fewer RNG tactics, and more tactics that actually have an actual effect. Yeah, BJ, Villa, how do you feel about that? Bribery, Imperial Diplomacy, cards that can give you potentially very high value.
Yeah, I don't really like RNG cards, honestly. I think like when they announced Homecoming, they said that RNG would go down, way down actually, and I don't feel like it has gone down as much as they promised. However, I do think that of course Bribery can be good, but then you also have to remember the fact that it can be really bad. Like it can lose you the game if you don't get the consistent value. If you don't get the big, like it can give you just bronzes, and if it gives you bronzes, it's terrible for 8 provisions. But then again, like said, it supports auto, and yeah, it basically is one of those auto include cards when you play auto, especially right now when assimilate is also very strong.
Yeah, and not only that, like with Scoia'tael being played a lot and like monsters being played a lot more, you can get cards like Oak, Barnabas, you can get Igern or Osro. So like TailBot also mentioned, like bribery is a lot better than the last couple seasons. This season,
Actually, Barnabas is not really worth much in Novigrad. Unless you
okay,
create the card
sure,
beforehand.
If you created card with like diplomacy, right? For example,
bad,
like
it's
Dryad,
almost always going to be at like 8 points.
And you can easily trigger Glynis with the assimilate, which you also have to take in account.
Yeah, one thing with Oak Hyperthin, with Oak is that Novigrad always kind of hyperthins. It always goes to very few cards in deck. So what you can possibly do is you can play Bribery fairly early on. For example, round 2, get Oak, and then get him back with Asira. I've seen that being done. So I think that's another problem with Bribery, that you can just put those cards back in your deck at some point if you played it early. But one thing that I want to talk about is, because you said Bribery gets stronger because Stefan is enabled by defenders. Do you feel like defenders just encourage people to play more greedily? Do you think like there's more greed in the game right now? TailBot?
Yeah. I mean, you can see it, right? Before the patch, Damien and Skellen were pretty much unplayable or not very good, and now everyone plays them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's mostly just because of the defender. Like their survivability rate increased by a lot just because of the defender.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if we are talking about Damien, before Novigrad actually had muzzle, so it kind of evens out, I would say. Because now muzzle is not a tactic, so you cannot replay it. You cannot pull it out of your deck with Menno. So I feel like replaying Ardo's ability, replaying Enslave, because that's where Damien is mostly used, kind of compensates for that.
Yeah, I mean, with the defenders, being like auto included, you can play a lot of those cards like Damien and Steven, and even Kingslayer. I don't know if you have tried a Kingslayer, TailBot, but like even that card is like pretty decent at the moment, because you also trigger Assimilate when you play that card, and you can just get another
using
Steven Scanlan or Damien. Yeah.
Oh my god. I actually played Kingslayer. I played a full on like all-in Assimilate deck with Kingslayer, where I could replay Bribery multiple times. So basically I would set up Defender, Skellen, Kingslayer, and sometimes it would be absolutely crazy with Bribery. Sometimes you would just get out of a 50-60 point deep just by replaying Bribery 3 times if you got a little bit lucky.
Yeah. So
the grid is definitely there, and I think you can see that a lot in Syndicate, where their defender effectively makes it like nearly impossible to get rid of Double Seductress or Savola Frightener.
Thing is, Double Seductress is not being played that much anymore. But
I've seen a lot. No, maybe not a lot. I've seen being played. I think that
people still play it, but I don't think it's optimal to play Portal into Seductresses anymore. But people still do it. Yeah. And it's not bad. It's just not optimal.
I think that the reason is just because Portal got nerfed. It's more expensive now.
Yeah, and Syndicate got a lot of very good golds in the expansion. So
yeah,
you have a lot of ways to replace this Portal.
Yeah, and Portal kind of brings me back to the topic of things you say back in the day. And at some point, I think that was also Early Homecoming said that a lot of neutrals feel very, very powerful and they should be nerfed. Do you? Of course, they changed most of them over various patches. But do you feel that Portal was one of those cards, one of those problematic neutrals that were somewhat dominating the game?
And maybe it was. I think the one provision nerf was fair to Portal. Like in the decks that Portal was really strong, those decks still play Portal, and now sometimes you would play Portal because you didn't have anything else to play, and now that's not the case. So yeah, it's decreased the rate that people play this card, but it's still playable. It's still a good card, so I don't mind.
Yeah, and speaking of neutrals, personally, I'm not a huge fan, but they added a neutral archetype. We have bandits. So we've seen Skellige decks that are basically neutral decks. How do you feel about that? Because personally, I feel like factions should be supported by neutrals and not neutrals supported by factions. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of neutral archetypes, but how do you guys feel about neutrals having their own archetypes that can just be played with a faction leader?
I don't mind if it's not the main archetype. And right now, I don't think it's the main archetype. Like Skellige uses some of the bandit cards because they have armor, they synergize with armor, and Skellige also synergizes with armor. So that's. But you don't see like full bandit decks right now on the ladder.
Yeah.
They're not good.
Full bandits deck are just a meme, so it's just a meme for people to play with. I don't think it's something to worry about that much. But I totally agree that like neutrals should support the faction and should, they should not be too strong. But the bandit deck is not strong enough to be like competitive deck.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Vile, would you like to expand on that thought?
No, I think, yeah, like I said, neutrals should support factions. Like I said, bandits, well, some of the bandit cards have a lot of armor, for example, and they give armor. I don't remember what the 4-point guy is called, but on deploy he gives 2 armor to unit in hand. That already synergizes with priests and a lot of other Skellige stuff. So these kind of neutrals I'm fine with, as long as they're not too powerful on their own, rather I'd have them support, like, for example, those Skellige cards, engines, mostly.
Yeah. Good point, Vile. I feel like there's a lot of potential topics that you can touch on when talking about the expansion. But one thing that I think is very important to note is how much of an impact the last Challenger and this expansion have on the popularity of Gwent. I'm not sure if you guys ever checked the stats of Gwent on Twitch, but Gwent went from a significant dip a couple of months ago. Like, Novigrad faction did not increase the viewership at all. Like, the number of players actually increased, but because there is somebody who checks that out, who does the math. But when it comes to viewership and the overall popularity of Gwent, it did nothing. But now we see like a wave of optimism regarding Gwent. And do you guys think that this wave of positivity around Gwent is gonna last, or are we gonna go back to the deep in the next couple of months?
I mean, for sure, right? Like, you see what's happening to Hearthstone. Lots of negative news about Hearthstone, like Blizzard. So people are not going to play Hearthstone, and they might join Gwent. So I think if there is a lot of positivity about Gwent, then definitely it will increase the player, right? The viewers on that Twitch, and yeah.
I mean, if the game is going to improve, and the player base will also improve.
Yeah.
I think the game is going in the right direction for now. But if they delay on Gwent Masters and Season 2 and stuff like this for way too long, then it's obviously gonna eventually go down again.
Yeah, speaking of good directions, mobile. We are just after an expansion, and we know that mobile is coming to iOS at the end of this month. Do you guys think it's the right direction for Gwent, or do you think they should focus more on improving the existing content or adding new content, and things like transferring Gwent to other platforms should just wait? Do you think there's more pressing issues, or do you think it's the right time for Gwent to come mobile?
I mean, I've been talking about this many times, but I do think that iOS and like Android, once it's on there too, I think it will definitely increase the player base. But like you said, is it the right time? I mean, there are some features that are still missing. For example, the observer mode and like
not the observer, the spectator mode.
The spectator mode. That's what I meant. The spectator mode, and I mean the observer mode is still in beta, so those are like features that should still get attention by CD Projekt Red. But I feel like those features are a little bit on the background, and they're not really working hard on it. And they're like right now they are just focusing on the mobile. Yeah. I mean, I think it definitely will increase the player base. At least I hope so. I'm hopeful.
TailBot, your thoughts on mobile? Have you actually played? Have you tried?
I tried it at the Challenger, and I'm not the kind of guy that plays on his phone. I don't enjoy playing on my phone, but it felt pretty good. Like it felt like it's a good port, and I think it's also the right time to release Gwent on mobile. Like game feels pretty good right now. I enjoy it, and yeah, I also think it's gonna increase the player base too.
Yeah, I actually like the mobile, especially the iOS coming out right now. Like iOS is, I dare say, probably the biggest platform, probably also the easiest to create a mobile game right now. And I think it's gonna make Gwent way more reachable, especially in like Asia mobile games are huge. So I'm very optimistic towards iOS, and think that it will bring a lot of new players. And yeah, I'm positive about it right now.
Okay, guys. I think it's time we move
It's
to
time.
the next segment. But just a
segment.
short question: is there anything else regarding the actual expansion that you guys would like to discuss right now? Maybe there is something from chat regarding the expansion.
Yeah, I don't see any questions for the expansion. So maybe we should just jump in Q&A and
Q&A. TailBot, get
Q&A.
ready because it's
yeah,
coming.
man.
It's the segment everyone was waiting for.
Everyone was waiting for. And yes, there was a question. The first question was from Alice, and she asked you, "How did you come up with your nickname?"
I get asked this question a lot, and I always come up with a different answer. So this time, I would just like to have a tail, So that's what tail comes from. And also, in the future, I would like my consciousness to be moved to a machine. That's where bot comes from.
I mean,
TailBot.
okay.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. But how do you feel about people actually calling you Tail God?
To be honest,
Yeah, to be absolutely honest, like we
Yeah,
always
absolutely
appreciate
honest.
honesty.
Honesty.
I find it a little bit, maybe not cringy, but I don't know. It feels a little bit cringy for me. Like I don't really.
Yeah, I can imagine why. And I was actually surprised that yesterday on This Week in Gwent, Buja actually promoted this episode as the God is gonna be on the show.
Yeah.
And that felt a little bit cringy as well.
I was like,
Oh God.
No, but I don't mind it. Like, no, it's not a big
Yeah,
deal.
I mean it's a compliment in a way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really comes from the fact that your tournament persona is just so confident.
Yeah, I think the right moment for that, maybe in a tournament when I make it like a good play, and then someone types Tile God or something like that, then it's the right moment for that.
Exactly, right?
I think,
what's the story behind your tournament act?
Tournament act?
Yeah, because we feel like TailBot that we see in the tournaments, talking about destroying his enemies and being the best player in the world, is much different than TailBot who sits here talking to us, or the TailBot who's streaming and talking to his viewers.
Yeah, the answer is simple. I just find it pretty funny.
Yeah, right. It's kind of funny. I agree. I always laugh at it when there is when CD Butcher that ask these few questions and then you respond with like really creative ways to impress the people. Yeah, I love it. And there was more questions. So at the Challenger, right, the last tournament, you decided to opt to play Cleaver and not DJ when everyone was playing DJ. I already talked about to you about it when I was in Warsaw, but maybe you could explain your choice for Cleaver to the chat.
I mean, now everyone knows. Now everyone is playing Cleaver on the ladder. Everyone knows it's a better leader, and yeah, that's why I chose it. I like I figure out it's just better leader, like more points, more value, like more flexible. Yeah, I just liked it a lot more than DG.
Yeah, and it is also a leader ability that can easily tin your deck, for example, when you need to. So yeah, I definitely.
I think everything was said about Cleaver already. Why he's good and why you should play him.
Exactly. So I hope that answers your question, Brazzer. And how would you compare Gwent to like other CCGs? Like people are playing Legends of Runeterra now, and like Midgard is on the horizon. Yeah.
I mean, I like it more. I think I just like that Gwent doesn't have like a mana system or something like that. I mean, there is a reason why I quitted Hearthstone once I tried Gwent. Like Gwent just felt a lot better for me. Like it felt like bigger. Like my decision matter more. I have I have more decisions to make, and I have more flexibility. Like it's not like turn one mana, I play my 1-drop, then I play my 2-drop, then I play my 3-drop. Like I have 10 cards in hand. I can play anything I want. Like the resource management is also very important in Gwent, like when to pass, what to commit in the first round or stuff like that. I also really enjoy it. Yeah, and the other card games feel pretty similar to each other. I think Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone, and like Legends of Runeterra, I didn't try, but it's also pretty similar. I think you have the mana system, you have you draw one card every turn, play your cards, then there is a battle phase when you attack, then opponents defend, and stuff like that. Like I think it's just less interesting for me.
Do you think like Gwent is more complex?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about the reward system in Gwent? Because I actually had that discussion yesterday in my own stream, and somebody said they came from another game and they feel like Gwent is not rewarding enough for new players. Well, personally, I think that Gwent is probably the most generous CCG on the market. So how would you compare it in terms of free-to-play experience and the rewards you get from Gwent to other games?
I mean, it's hard to compare because I didn't try many games, and I don't have much new player experience in other games. So that's why. But I think like Gwent is pretty generous. At least it was quite some time already after I started playing Gwent. It's already like almost 3 years probably. So I don't really remember how was the new player experience back then. But now that I have all the cards, and so I don't really pay attention to that. But I think it's pretty good. And from what I hear from other players, like new players, they also think it's like good. It's generous. Yeah.
What do we have? Oh, I have a very controversial question because I feel like that the atmosphere talking about the expansion and balance was very dark and grim, and there is something that somebody asked me to ask you. What's the story about your feat reveal? Yeah, I know it's a stupid question, but I promised I'm gonna ask this on podcast, and people just want to know where did they come from.
I mean, it was just random idea. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I wanted to do something random for the sub goal, and I did.
And speaking about your stream, because technically you haven't streamed that much. Like you are somewhat new to the streaming scene, right? You streamed a little bit back I think October, November, stuff like that, and then after almost a year you came back. What prompted that decision? Like, how did you get into streaming? How did you decide to stream regularly?
Right now, what made me stream was basically I got bored. Like the break from the tournaments is too long. It's already almost a year, I feel like. Before, when there was a ladder, then I played Gwent every day, a few hours to grind the ladder, then qualify for tournaments. But now it's like almost 1 year break, and yeah, I just got bored. I ran out of stuff to do, and yeah, I decided that I'm gonna start streaming too. And
do you enjoy it? Do you find the playing experience on stream much different from grinding the ladder, for instance?
Oh yeah, it's definitely much different. Like your performance drops on the stream definitely because it's not as bad if you don't pay much attention to the chat, but if you try to pay attention to the chat, you read it, then it's really hard to do two things at once. Like you get distracted a lot, and sometimes you make stupid mistakes. Like really stupid mistakes, like roping out, misclicking, stuff like that. And I made quite some of those mistakes on the stream already, which is, it feels maybe not as good, but I guess it's good for the chat, good entertainment.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Good
Especially with roping. That feels so relatable.
To spam PW in chat, I guess. Yeah, but it doesn't. I play worse. I know that, but it's not. It doesn't feel as bad because I'm also not tryharding. Like I know, I don't care about my result. I don't care how far I will climb because the season doesn't matter. So why should I care? Yeah. And if I enjoy streaming, yeah, I think I enjoy it. Like it's not the worst thing in the world.
Speaking of tryharding and seasons and tournaments, we're gonna get there in a moment, but there's one, I think, also cringy question that I got from somebody, and that's, why do you think you are the best player in the world? It's a very cringy question. I'm not sure if you actually agree with that statement, but we promised to ask, so here it is, chat. You got it. TailBot, the microphone is yours.
Okay, I'm gonna answer honestly. Right now at this moment I don't feel like I'm the best player because I'm not tryharding on the ladder. I don't play that much Gwent. Right now I'm playing on stream, so I don't. There are players that are more committed to Gwent right now, and they probably play better than me. So it's probably not true right now, but I also feel like if I wanted to be the best player, I could. Like if I started tryharding now, I would easily get quite quickly to the level, of being the best.
Yeah. Do you think that you?
The best. At the very top, there is a very, very small difference between players. Like the level of players is very similar at the very top. I feel like you have maybe, there's top three best performing players at the time, and then there is maybe 10 to 20 players which you can tell that they are a little bit worse, but they are still very, very good, and then there's the rest. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, and do you think, like you mentioned, like I can still be the best player of the world, but do you think you can still be the best player in the world when you stream? Because you mentioned that you can also make mistakes sometimes when you stream.
No.
Yeah, so you would have to stop streaming if
streaming is too big of a disadvantage.
Yeah, I agree. I totally experienced that myself too. I know all about being called a Pepega, but the last question for the Q&A. What would be your dream way of qualifying to like a tournament?
My dream way to qualify for tournament?
Yes.
Okay, good question. I don't know, getting invited, so I don't have to do anything.
I mean, you already showed what you're capable of, right? They should just invite you to every tournament.
I already proven myself that I can qualify the hard way, so it would be nice change to just get invited and save some time.
Speaking of qualifying and tournaments, I think it's the right moment to just move to that segment. Pro rank grinding, no season 2. General thoughts. How do you feel about pro rank just existing right now without any higher goals, without there not being any tournaments, without season 2 not being announced? Do you even think there is a reason to play professionally at this moment?
No, there is no reason. There's no reason, no tournaments, no reason to play. Like trying to play at professionally, but you can play to have fun. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, to prove yourself.
I mean, still, like, for some people, getting that number one is gonna feel nice, even if they like doesn't really do anything, just a number. For some people, it's gonna feel nice, and they're gonna still try to get that number one or like very good spot, even if they don't qualify for tournament in exchange. But yeah. I mean, for me, that's a big deal. Like for me to play Gwent, I need those tournaments. I got addicted. Before I was playing for fun, then I played competitively, and it's much different. Once you go competitively, you never come back. I mean, now it feels like there's no purpose to play for me. Even if the game is fun, it feels like something is missing,
Yeah.
Actually, to kind of expand on the last question from the Q&A and on this topic, Nexus asks, what do you think is the best format for qualifying for tournaments? Because I remember one of your tweets from way back when you said that the decision to make the season shorter was not good. So, like, let's say you are in charge, right? As a competitive player, as the challenger winner, what would you think would be the best format for qualifying for tournaments in Gwent? Like league or just small tournaments to qualify for bigger tournaments?
I mean, I don't mind ladder qualification. Yeah, I know it requires grinding, which some people are not fan of, but it's also very, very consistent. And for me, I think the most important thing is for tournaments to that the very best players actually get to play in them. Like a very consistent way to actually finding those best players and then letting them play in the tournament. And so I don't really mind ladder, and that's also the reason why I really hate qualifiers, because they are very random, and I hate that. I really do. Even though I think I like won one qualifier. It was it was like Challenger 3. I think I qualified for Challenger 3 in like 3 different ways. I mean, I had the most crown points. I won a qualifier, and something else. I don't really remember. Maybe that was other Challenger, but yeah, I won the qualifier, and it didn't feel good, to be honest. There were like 200 people in this qualifier. I won it, and it felt. I didn't feel like I was the best player after I won it. Like getting top number one spot on the ladder felt like I'm the very best player, but winning qualifier didn't feel like that. It feels like I was very lucky too. Like I played good. I know that I played good, but it felt like I also got lucky. And yeah, and also what I'm not. I also heard some ideas about like league format, which seems like it's also not a bad idea. And I think it could work in Gwent pretty well. Yeah, I also wouldn't mind something like that. Maybe as an alternative to ladder. If they decide that they don't want season 2 to be based on ladder, then they could do like a league format. I just hope it's not qualifiers.
You said that it feels good to be number one on the ladder, that you feel like you achieved something. But there's been a discussion within Team Rankstar and some of our players, and some of them are saying that Pro Ladder is actually too accessible, that it's too easy to get to Pro Ladder. Your take on that? Do you think the Pro Ladder, like the format of Pro Ladder right now, is in a good spot, or should they change something in the near future? Like if they announce season 2, if there's a reason to play on Pro Ladder?
Yeah, maybe it's too easy. I mean, I think the way to get to Pro Ladder should be as easy, so we have enough people for queue to not be too long. Like right now, I think you could make it harder, and the queue times would still be okay. So, yeah.
One thing that was also noticed is people feel like people just want to get to Pro Ladder. It feels like an achievement for them. But once they are on the Pro Ladder, they are forced to play on the Pro Ladder. They don't have a choice to play on the regular ladder anymore, right? How do you feel about that? Like, do you think that the system should be reverted to what it was in the beta, where you can just decide on playing on normal or pro, like if you qualified?
Yeah, I think having a choice would be nice. Once you qualify for pro, like having a choice if you want to play in pro or normal ladder would be nice thing. Maybe for example you want to test the deck first before you go to the pro ladder, and then you can do that in the other matchmaking. No, I think it's like I don't see a reason why there shouldn't be why this option shouldn't be in the game.
And rewards, because back in the day when you reach a certain rank or you got the pro up or you were to 200 or something like that, there were like rewards, mostly cosmetic, but you got something in return for making that achievement. Right now there is nothing. Like, do you think that they should reintroduce rewards like that to incentivize playing on the ladder, even if there is no actual competitive season?
Yeah, I also think that's not a bad idea. I mean, for some people, it's gonna feel good if they, if they receive something after reaching pro ladder, like if they actually see a reward or something
Exactly,
on the screen.
yeah.
That's probably gonna feel good for them. Like, but a lot of people also don't care. I don't think it's that important. Yeah,
And yeah, Villa, because you said you took a break.
Yep.
And I know that you are actually considering Mythgard, as many other pro players. Just I think Molegion made a tweet pop back. It wasn't a tweet per se. It was like fairly long and well articulated message. Do you think that there's gonna be a moment when people just abandon Gwent because there's no competitive season?
Depends how long the announcement takes. If it takes anywhere near, like I think everyone's line is somewhere early next year. If it doesn't, if nothing comes out early next year, it just might be that competitive Gwent might not honestly be that much of a thing anymore. Especially when I think, at least from what I understand, Mythgard is also trying to build up an esports scene. So we could very well lose a lot of players for that, especially.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of people saying, I give it another month, or I give it time until the end of the year. TailBot, what's your position? Like, do you have a deadline of some sorts where we say, okay, now I'm just gonna give up on Gwent because there's nothing for me to do anymore? Like, do you think that there should be
I'm a believer. So I believe that season 2 is gonna happen at some point, and I'm probably not gonna venture into other areas of my life until they announce this season 2, or they just say that season 2 is not gonna happen then.
Well, we actually had Buja, and he said season 2 is gonna happen because it has to happen. He said the format is probably gonna be different, but they are not ready to make an announcement yet. So it feels like they said something, okay, it's gonna happen, but nobody knows when and how. And I think that's where a lot of frustration comes from. Just people
and also, I'm not gonna leave Gwent until Gwent Masters.
Oh yeah, right.
At least there's also Gwent Masters, right?
Yeah, he actually told us that they consider.
If we don't know anything about season 2 after Gwent Masters, then I would maybe think about it again. But I think at that point there should be something like there should be some information at least about season 2 at that point.
They have to. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, one thing that Buja told us is that they consider launching season 2 before the Masters and doing Masters somewhere in between, because they feel like there is they have been out of the competitive scene for so long. There's been only two tournaments since Homecoming, that they feel like they need to get all the attention and all the viewership and the interest in tournaments back before doing Masters.
I wish they do that. The sooner the better.
So yeah, we are just waiting for an announcement.
Yeah, come on, Seedbit Red, give it to us.
Yeah, and there's no season 2. There's no announcement. We already talked about that. How would you feel about playing in community tournaments? There's some of them like that.
I mean, every now and now there are no, but
I think there's like one soon, like the top 6, 8, something like that of one of the tournaments.
Yeah, the EGC, right?
The EGC,
yeah. But
honestly, I don't enjoy playing in those kind of tournaments that much. So,
really?
yeah.
And how come you don't enjoy those community tournaments?
I don't know. I need to get something in return for my time investment. If there's like, I mean, if there's like decent, maybe some prize pool or something like that, then yeah, I could try. But if there's nothing or it's like
Yeah,
not much, then it's like not worth my time. I think it also takes a lot. The worst thing about tournaments is that it takes like you need to commit a few hours a day. You know, there's a day and
Yeah.
you need to commit like a few hours to actually play in those tournaments. And no, I don't like that. I enjoy playing like a bit and then taking a breaks and maybe some stuff like that. I don't enjoy playing a few hours, you know, like in a row, you know.
Yeah, I agree in that. I participated actually in quite a few community tournaments recently over the summer for the EGC qualifiers, and I didn't like it at all. But personally, I like to do things my own way. And playing in a tournament, you have to invest at least 6 hours of your day just to play straight, and the wait for each match also would be very long. So whereas I like more playing couple hours, take a break, play a couple hours. I think this keeps me more energetic and also makes me play more optimally. And yeah, just playing 6 hours straight and the wait being so long, I don't think it's
No.
it's not ideal, and I don't think it's really even that healthy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why
I
I
mean-
don't enjoy it.
definitely not healthy for you. Like you have to eat and like drink, and like it's really hard to do that.
To actually stay focused for
Yeah, that too.
such a long
like,
period of time.
Yeah,
Vila, this is your segment technically, and
technically.
I know that you have
Technically.
some more questions, so we are waiting.
We
Yeah,
are
so I'm
waiting.
curious actually to know, Talebot, how do you decide on a tournament lineup? So what's your thought process behind that? Do you look at how much does actually Pro Ladder influence your lineup decision making?
I mean, it depends. Depends. What's the like state of the meta at the moment? Usually, I mean, Pro Ladder kind of influences things because I mean that's how you get to know what meta looks like because you play in the Pro Ladder. You know what people like to play, what is strong, what is weak, and yeah, I mean how I prepare. I usually just try to analyze the meta and try to predict what people are gonna bring, and then also what's my ban is going to be, and then try to build a lineup around that. Like I know what I'm banning, and then there are like what are the other decks, and then try to build the lineup so that I can beat them. And yeah, I mean it's pretty simple actually. Like I don't pay that much that much attention to preparing. At least I used to I used to like prepare very little in previous tournaments in beta. I think there was like one tournament, and I think it was like Gwent Open 5, and I remember that I played. I lost to Andy Vant in the finals. I think for that tournament, my preparation was 15 minutes long. I just made the decks and I sent them in, and that was it. So it was when I started getting consumed. So yeah, so I got my alchemy list. Okay, let's put spheres in here. I have my grey swords. Okay, grey swords are good against consume. Then what's the other deck? I can play Spell Scuttle, and it took me like 30 minutes, and I didn't practice the decks at all. I just took them, and I did really good. Yeah, I mean I still got to the finals. I lost 3-2 to Andy One, which didn't have consume, so it was a bad matchup for me. So if you are playing a lot, like I used to, few hours a day to grind the ladder, then you don't need to prepare that much, you know.
Yeah, I actually agree. Sometimes I feel like that. If the less I prepare, the better I do in a tournament, because that also makes me. If I prepare a long time, it makes me probably overthink a bit too much. Whereas I should probably go mostly with what I'm comfortable with, and especially if you play each day, then you generally have the idea each season for what you want to bring. So I don't think doing preparing for several weeks is needed or ideal at all. Also, I would like to ask, what's it like? So playing on pro. So what's the difference of playing in pro ladder and playing on a tournament? So like live tournament, playing in front of a whole crew. What's it like? How much different is it?
It's not that much different. The biggest difference is that you are more nervous, obviously, when you play in the tournament.
Mhm.
That's obvious thing. And I mean, also, you're not at your place, at your home. So it also feels a little bit different. There's like Puja behind you or like Dandelion, crossing by. So it feels a little bit different, but it's not that much different. Like at first, in my first tournament, I was very nervous, and I even made some mistakes because of that. But after each tournament, it got better and better, and now it feels like I'm not even that nervous in the tournament. And if I'm not that nervous, then it feels pretty similar, actually, to playing at home.
You said that you are not really preparing that much when it comes to tournaments, but do you think that people who actually prepare together with a teammate who are on a team have an advantage? Do you think that their preparation process is better? Do you think that they that process yields better results? Because I think you used to be in a team, right?
Yeah.
So I think
But
that did you prepare with a team or did you prepare
I
alone?
was the only Gwen player in that team.
Okay.
Oh.
And have you actually considered joining a Gwen team?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's not a priority for me now. Like, it's not that important.
Yeah, but back to the question: do you think that, for example, Team Aratusa, they produce a lot of tournament players? Do you think that their preparation process is better than just preparing on your own, just going through the decks and lineups yourself?
I mean, it depends on the person. Like, I think for me, preparing alone works. For some other people, preparing in a team might be a lot better.
One thing that I think that I wanted to ask is, because this time CDPR actually invited like the whole audience, a lot of content creators, a lot of people who care about Gwent. Does it make the whole atmosphere of tournaments more relaxed? Do you feel like you are performing better when you have the let's say offline time where you can just chill with other players, have fun, have a beer, and have a slice of pizza, stuff like that? Because I think that's the first time they did it.
Yeah, it's the first time. I mean, it doesn't make any difference on my performance, but I just enjoy it more because then I get to talk to more people, and yeah, I like that to interacting with some other people, meeting new people. Yeah, I think that's cool. I like that. I hope that they're gonna do that again in the future for like at least for the bigger tournaments.
And another thing is, because this time around you were the only player who came with Cleaver, the challenger. How does it feel when you are the only player who came with a specific deck or with a specific play, and it works? Do you feel like, yes, I'm the only one? It's a very unique play. I'm the only one who figured it out, or does it just feel normal?
I never thought about that, so I guess it didn't feel it didn't feel that special to me. But I mean, yeah, I guess it's like it's a good feeling, right? If it works, and yeah, then you know that you just did something right. I never really thought about that much.
Okay.
PJ Villa, would you like to expand on the topic of tournaments? And because I think that's one of the very few occasions that we have the chance to talk to an actual champion of the challenger.
I mean, what was your most memorable moment as a competitive player, pro player?
And that's not an easy question.
It's not an easy question.
I mean, the easy answer is to the easy answer is to just say winning challenger. That's the easy answer, and I'm probably just gonna stick to it. Yeah, winning challenger.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. And what else? Usually after like a tournament happens, people are starting to net deck those decks, right? From the pro players. do you think that it has like a big impact on the meta, or do you think it's like after a couple days people will start to play the current meta decks?
Yeah, it has an impact, right? Like you notice it after tournament. Quite a lot of people actually play those tournament decks on the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, it's maybe a little bit funny if the deck is bad on the ladder and people still play it. That's maybe a little bit funny, but I mean, most of those decks are still good. So, yeah. I mean,
but yeah, like, do you think like, but do you think it could work like on Pro Ladder, for example, like decks from tournament? Because I feel like tournament and Pro Ladder, it's like there's like a huge difference.
Yeah, completely different environment, right?
Yeah. Could you maybe say something about it?
I mean, yeah, those are still good decks. For example, from my last challenger, like all of my decks would still perform very good on the ladder. But some decks are, are tech specifically for the tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, you know what you are banning. For example, Francesca was very, very popular on the ladder, and if you knew that you would ban Francesca, then you wouldn't care about Francesca. Then you would make your deck weak to Francesca because you ban it anyways. And then if you try to play this deck on the ladder, and there are a lot of Francesca, then obviously this deck is not going to be that good. Or it's going to lose to Francesca a lot. So yeah, you have to keep that in mind. Like you have to keep in mind what was the player's game plan. Like what was he banning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, BJ. It seems like you have another question.
Like you said, like everyone was banning Francesca, and for example, like Jesse, he opted to actually tag against Francesca and ban DJ. Yeah, well, what did you thought of that?
Not very good. I think that it didn't work that well for him. Yeah, I mean, probably everyone considered it. Like, everyone thought that everyone is gonna bring Francesca. So, okay, can I take against it? And most people said, nope, no, it's too good. I cannot make 4 decks that gonna consistently win against Francesca. So, most people just opted to ban the deck, and I did the same.
Yeah, exactly.
And because the first day of the tournament, you don't really know what your opponent is gonna bring to the table, right? You don't know the decks, you don't know the lists. So how does it change the way you play if you advance to the semifinals? And you already know, okay, this is the list my opponent's playing. Do you actually still prepare in the meantime? Do you go through different scenarios of how to counter the deck your opponent is playing? Because that's the first occasion you actually see the list.
I don't think I ever did that. I don't really care. If there is something very spicy that my opponent is playing and I have like 0 experience playing against that deck, then I could maybe practice a little bit, before day 2 once I get to know the lists. But usually I just don't care.
And before you said that it doesn't really matter if the audience is there and stuff like that, but does it matter? Because there was the first challenger that took place at the studio, or maybe the second. I think there was a couple of challengers that took place at a very special location, like the salt mine or a castle. How do you feel playing in a location like that has been chosen for a tournament? Is it different from playing at the studio? Do you feel like more? Do you feel it's more rewarding to be brought to a special place?
It's not really different because like stuff looks similar. There is the same table, same chairs, same very similar decorations. It's pretty similar to the studio, so it doesn't make that much difference.
But I suppose like the environment, right, of the place is a lot different. Like,
I mean, I don't pay attention to that. For me, it doesn't make any difference.
Villa.
Yep.
At least when I'm playing, when I'm hanging out, then I see, oh, that's a nice castle, right? Very fun. But when I'm playing, then I don't think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think one question that I could ask is, what's the most annoying part of playing at a tournament somewhere else rather than your own home? Are there things that you just don't like about being there and playing, at the studio or at the location?
The chairs are not very comfy.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah,
With
I need
those
to
wooden chairs.
sit like this. I cannot lay back and just because then it's not very comfy for me.
Yeah,
And
because
that's not very good for your spine, your back. So that's the worst thing.
Yeah, because I've heard people saying, "Oh, the microphone is kind of not in a good place," or "the makeup is not what I want." It just feels very, very artificial, or stuff like that. So yeah, the chairs, I can imagine that. And guys, do we have more questions about the tournaments, the environment of tournaments, competitive play? Do we have anything else in that regard that you want to ask right now?
I mean, I think there's one question that we did not ask. That is like, how relevant would spectator mode be for the competitive scene?
Pretty relevant, I think. I mean, that would make the community tournaments much easier to actually stream them, which would bring more attention to those tournaments. Yeah, I think that's a pretty big feature, and that should be implemented soon. I think it's pretty important for the game.
Yeah, because even the qualifiers, for example, could be streamed, right? Because you just spectate the players that are playing in the tournament. I think people would love that shit. Yeah, totally agree that it should be in the game.
So yeah, Villa, do you have more questions about tournament?
No, I mean, the real last question about competitive I want to know is, what's your stance on Season 2 not being announced yet? Of course, we know, like Weisenberg said, Berger said Season 2 is coming, but what is your stance on it right now? How long are you willing to wait?
I think we already asked that, didn't we?
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just hoping that I'm not gonna get disappointed, that the format is actually gonna be good, and
yeah, I think everyone is hoping and waiting. And
I mean, if you wait so long and then you get disappointed in the end because the format sucks or something like that.
Yeah,
for me it would be like, if it's like very, very qualifier heavy, then I would be really, really sad.
Yeah, like you want to avoid a situation that we got shortly after Homecoming, where people were disappointed with one major patch that was midwinter, then they had to wait so long for new content, and then when it dropped, a lot of people just didn't like it at all. And I think that CDPR should really avoid making that mistake again, but this time in regards to the competitive play. So yeah, now we can I guess move to the last segment, which is like random and a little bit more personal questions, and something that I've been asked a lot. Just people were just saying, just ask it and be done with it. Your gym routine, like people are just so jealous of your sick gains. I know it's a ridiculous question, but since we are doing just personal missed questions right now, is there anything you want to share with the viewers who would like to improve their lifestyle?
Yeah, I advise everyone to start exercising. Going to the gym. It's really good. It has a lot of benefits. Yeah. And when it comes to gym routine, I think it's like probably would take too long for me to go into specifics. But yeah, just do it. Just do it.
And another question that I got in the meantime is, how do you feel about memes about yourself? For example, when you wake up, the next day and you see, oh god, there's another meme clip or a Photoshop or something like that.
Yeah, I love it. I love memes. Especially about myself.
I love it too. Whenever someone makes like a meme from me, it's hilarious. Yeah.
Okay. Another thing that I was asked to ask is, what do you do outside of streaming and playing Gwent? People just would like to know the more personal side of TailBot.
I mean, yeah. So like I stated before, like going to the gym. Sometime I also spent on diet, food prepping, stuff like that. I also play on the guitar.
Cool.
Which is pretty cool, yeah. And then I read some stuff. Like I used to not do that, but now that I have more time, then I'm also reading a little bit, watching some stuff, TV shows, stuff like that. I mean, going out from time to time. Yeah, just nothing too surprising.
And how do you feel about being a Gwent celebrity of sorts? Do you get a lot of weird messages, or just random messages, or people just saying cringy stuff to you during your stream or in DMs? How do you go about that? Because I can imagine, one of the best players won the challenger.
A lot of people ask me for fit pics after the last stream, which is pretty fun. No, but I don't get many like the weird messages or stuff like that. I think
that's actually good, because we had Pavel a couple of weeks back, and he said sometimes it's absolutely crazy. Like people recognizing him on the subway. He even got a couple of love letters.
Yeah, some creepy fangirls, right?
I remember like even once on Reddit there was like it wasn't like it wasn't connected to Pavel actually. No, it was a different thing, but still it was. Okay, never mind.
Go on.
Go
this
for
is
it,
like
man.
you cannot start and cut it off.
I mean, you've seen it. You all have seen it. The Lippy Brown Erotica, but it wasn't connected to Pavel. It was Pavel had to drop a leak, and then the guy posted the erotica day after or something.
Oh god, I remember that. If we only got it ready.
Yeah, if only, man.
And speaking of situations like that, what's your overall experience with the community? Because Reddit can have significant mood swings. Like one thing that we talked about among ourselves was how Reddit changed its approach towards a different content creator, Jaguars. That she was heavily criticized for not playing, and then a month ago she got praised for playing and creating starter decks and stuff like that. How do you feel about the community in general, and their mood swings and how they?
I like it. Yeah, I like the community. I love the community. I got to meet a lot of people in person too, which I honestly prefer. I prefer like meeting people like in person than talking to them in online. I prefer that. Yeah, as long as they don't talk about game balance, game design, I think it's fine.
I mean, fair enough. That's fair enough.
but why not? Because you would disagree, or do you think that they often express a very rushed opinion?
Yeah, mostly because I disagree.
Yeah, somebody says face to face for the intimidation factor.
I mean, I did saw him play arm wrestling with Marcus. That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I'm just surprised that specific meme has not reached its height yet. Like I've seen maybe one version of that meme.
Yeah.
Like the community is slacking here.
Exactly. Yeah. We demand more memes, more TailBot memes, man.
Guys, do we have any more questions?
No, not
BJ,
really.
Villa, chat maybe? The Marcus was cheating? Was he?
Oh yeah, I mean, I heard something about that too. Yeah, how did you like having like that, having like an audience at the Challenger? Would you like to see that again? Yeah, but would you like to see that again?
And I said that I would like to. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess it's the time for plugs. TailBot. This we are slowly approaching the end of the podcast. What more can you tell about yourself, and where can people find you as a content creator? And actually, maybe to expand a little bit on that thought, are you, because you said you're gonna stream on a regular basis, but is it something you want to do long term?
Yeah, I mean, at least season 2 doesn't get doesn't happen, at least until that. And if season 2 happens, then I will also see like what's the format. If I'm gonna have time to stream, then it's very likely that I will also stream. And if it's like very time demanding, the format, then it's probably gonna be really hard, for obvious reasons. And yeah, you can find me on Twitch, TailBot, I think. Yeah, just TailBot, same as here and everywhere. And you can find me on Twitter, TailBot with the underscore. And yeah, you can also find me on my Discord. You can join my Discord. You can find the link on my Twitch page. Yeah.
Cool.
Villa, I know that you have a regular streaming schedule of 1 stream per month, but where can people find you?
Twitter and Twitch, I believe. Those are the 2 places, yes. And then Discord, if you happen to be on the same servers as me. You can usually find me hanging out in BJ's Discord. That's the usual place I'm on.
Yeah. He's my supreme commander-in-chief, you know? I'm gonna hang out there.
Okay,
Yeah.
BJ, any closing statements? And where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch. I will stream regularly during the work days. I will have less time in the future. I need to spend more time on studying, but I will try to fit in streams regularly. You can just find me on the Baby Joseph, and on Twitter it's the same, just Baby Joseph, and you can follow me there. And then you can interact with me if you want to.
Okay, guys. Well, you know where you can find me because we are on my channel right now. But yeah, I also started making YouTube content, like weekly recaps. So you can just type exclamation mark YouTube with a link to my chat, to my channel, or if you want to see my Twitter, then exclamation mark Twitter. TailBot, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. It was a great talk. It was a great experience to have a challenger champion to have on the show.
Happy to be here. Yeah.
Guys, BJ, Willem, also thanks for co-hosting this episode with me. And as always, guys, if you want to stay in touch also off stream, you can follow us on Twitter at Novigrad Podcast. Very easy to find. And as I said in the beginning of the show, if YouTube is the preferred platform, this episode is going to be uploaded in a couple of hours. Just type exclamation mark YouTube. So yeah, once again, chat, thanks for being here. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for hanging out. We're gonna rate somebody, and I think I know who we're gonna rate in a moment. We already discussed that. So please stay tuned. And yeah, once again, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. See you guys next time. The next episode is gonna be in 2 weeks, as always. We already have a guest, but we are gonna announce it in a couple of days. So once again, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chatting. See you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.